Alright, this video is how to remove a crank and install a new crank. Okay, we're gonna remove this cover with a flathead screwdriver to expose the nut holding on the crank. Now, we send you this tool, and what I like to do is separate them so you can work them separately. And we're gonna get the socket part and remove the nut. I'll place it on there. Now, this side here of the tool is a 16 millimeter. If you don't have an adjustable wrench, you use a 16 millimeter wrench to work that. So now we're gonna turn this counterclockwise to remove the nut. So hold the pedal down with your left hand and give it some force. Okay, there, loosen up. Now back it out. Alright, and keep the nut in a safe spot because you're going to be using it later. Okay, at this time you can kind of blow in there to get any chip out of there, because you need those threads clean. Now, this is the separator part, or the remover part, and you notice there's a lot of thread on here. It's pretty deep, and there's also thread here on the crank right there. So we're gonna feed this into there and fully seat it. Okay, so in order to achieve a good fit, I like to oil the grease thread on the remover tool so it doesn't get caught and cause a strip. Okay, so I like to put it on here and turn it backwards counterclockwise until it kind of pops and seats flush, and then I give it a turn to the right and it starts threading. Okay, this is what you want here. This is you want the tool to be threaded and turning without having to use much force by hand. Okay, now fully seated as far as you can get it by hand. Okay, there, it's reached. Yeah, that's as far as I can get it by hand. Now we're gonna get our tool and fully seat it, because again, we want this as the most thread we can get into the crank, so it can be properly seated, so that it doesn't cause a strip, so that it doesn't strip out the threads, and then we cannot get the crank off. Okay, that's as far as it goes. Now we're going to insert the pusher part of the tool, and the reason why I like to take it off is because there's a post from the axle here that if this was installed, it could contact it and won't allow this to fully seat properly and cause an issue. So we're going to fully insert. Okay, and it's as far as I can get it in by hand. Now we're going to turn to the tool here. We're going to turn this part. Hold the pedal with your other hand and start turning clockwise. Okay. You may have to apply a lot of pressure. Okay, there, and that's how you get the crank off of there. Okay, now to install the new crank, go ahead and clean off the axle surfaces of any debris. Now, apply some thread lock to the threads on the axle. Now, installing the crank is crucial because you may want to notice the opposite side. The pedal is up on this machine that I'm working on here. Right there, it's up. So now this crank needs to go down. If that pedal was pointing down, then this crank would have to go up, or else both your pedals are going to be in the same position, and then you end up with like a bunny machine. So this crank goes down. Okay. So opposite of the other pedal. Now we're going to take the nut that was on there and wipe it off a little bit, and then a little bit more thread lock to it. Just a little bit to the threads and roll it around. Okay. I'll solder it back onto the axle. Okay. And we're going to take the socket side of the puller tool and fully seat that nut. Now you want to rotate to the right clockwise. Now you need to do this with much force to get the crank to seat and get a good fit. Now, with the thread lock on there, let it sit for 8 hours or overnight, and that's how you install the crank.